Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Macro Podcast. I am excited to welcome the CEO of EQRP, Parker Persell, to the show today. We are going to get into the nitty-gritty of financial independence and how EQRP can help you do that. And I am thrilled to introduce my friend Parker Persell. Parker, thank you for joining the show.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. And I'm trying to remember even when we first met, how long ago it was, but I think it was more like instant synergy.
Yeah.
I think our personalities really gelled. So
yeah.
But
And anybody who grew up around a family golf course, I was like, that's a cool guy. I love that. That's really fantastic. And above and beyond all that, I just admired how you carried yourself. I think there was just a very similar and kind of a low key vibe, and just really enjoying everyone's conversation. And I think I appreciated that.
Yeah. Well, look, if you say, Parker, I'm in the area, but let's go play golf, then say less. I'm out the office and we're going to hit the course.
I promise that's going to happen. Hopefully this year, once we get things, we're in kind of a startup mode. But man, once I get out of startup mode, that's one of the first trips I want to take for sure.
Well, you got open invite.
I sure appreciate that. Absolutely. And so, Parker, can you tell us a little bit about, based on that family background and growing up around a really, and it's actually a really renowned family business, and how did that form how you started?
Yeah. So I'll try to give this like short version of what this is, but we were 115 years in the fertilizer business, family owned, 5 generations. And what happened was we started off like real small, cotton gin, just growing from there. And then we went into, basic, small mom and pop retail, grew into one of the nation's leading providers of this specific type of fertilizer that we had, which was Polyon. So consider it the Apple product of fertilizer, and it's still the top performing of its time. So we are not in it anymore. So back in really kind of how the whole farm aspect of people do research and see, wait, so fertilizer, and now you're in hospitality in the hotel business.
Yeah.
So what happened there is my father's a visionary. My granddad was really just the genius of putting money in his right pocket and his left pocket. So my dad, though, was super creative and got into the marketing space, and his background was in graphic design and advertising. So back in the late 90s, my dad had this crazy idea to want to move our corporate headquarters, which was located in a real small town, Sylacauga, Alabama, and move it out to our family farm out there at 3,200 acres. And he said, Dad, which my granddad, he said, I want to build a golf course to showcase our product to the country. So instead of sending out, 100 to 200 salespeople across the country to go sell this product, he said, I want to bring the client to us and create this experience.
Oh, wow.
So, well, I mean, think it's a massive marketing spend, right? And I mean, it was probably around at the time, less inflation, $15 million to get everything up and running. But what we did though is we created this experience from start to finish. So the second they flew in, we had everything planned out. It was a 3-day, 2-night experience. And we partnered with some different people in the industry. So Club Car, Toro, really the industry leaders in their respective spaces saw what we were doing and wanted to come alongside us. And it cost us nothing because the people they were selling to were the same people we were selling to, but nobody was competing against each other. So we had all our farm equipment, like basically was free. We were just like, hey, just showcase it while these people are out there. All our turf equipment for free, like all our golf fleet was for free. So it was a really unique strategy. We had over a 90% conversion rate.
Wow.
From prospect to customer. And so, but it was all done around this idea of really just Southern hospitality. I could go into the details of what we actually did, but really it was all focused. When they left, we wanted them to feel something different. And the people at the time, like when you look at the avatar that we were selling to, they live in a world where they don't have, like, if you were to walk up to a superintendent's office, they're understaffed. They've got, the members of the club screaming and barking at them. Their, budgets are constrained. They do not have time to think about what product is better than another and what they want to buy. They're like, just give me what I need and walk away, or I don't have time. So we pulled them out of their environment, some of them a couple thousand miles away, right? And now they could breathe. They're like, wow, like I don't have any of the normal chaos around me.
Yeah.
Now I can focus on, so this golf course was built to showcase our product. So it was a private golf course that we built with all different sorts of research and technology, with different grasses, different applications. Like each hole had something different on it relative to our product, the type of application that was there. And so it was fun first and education second. So when they arrived, it was like, hey, just chill, like take the first day to just enjoy yourself. And then on the back half, we'll educate you about kind of what we're doing, what's out there. And when they left, they were like, this is so unique outside of what we've ever seen.
Yeah.
So in 2006, we were approached by, we got into a bidding war with 3 companies, and we ended up selling in 2006. And so now, they took all the manufacturing plants, like IP, all that, but they didn't want the physical asset of the property itself, which, makes sense. Like it was our strategy. It worked for us, but they didn't have a vision for it. So they didn't want that. So we kept everything that was there. So after the sale, we had this property, and now we're like, what next? So we went about, 10 to 12 years of just, I call it Moses wandering in the wilderness, like in a pretty big burn rate of cash with no strategy. And so we got to a point where we had to double down on what we wanted to do. Like in the meantime, we were doing some little things, like we started bringing people out, trying to figure out how to monetize these assets that we had. And so then we said, you know what, we really feel led by the Lord to keep the same strategy of loving on people, using hospitality as our X factor. Let's like build a strategy around that. So we just felt, okay, like this is what makes the most sense. And so now, we started that in 2016, and then 2018, we opened up basically the new re-envisioned Persell Farms with 81 rooms, wedding venue, tons of activities, restaurant, spot, like all these things to say this is who we are. But we're a family-owned business now that they feel the family in every single aspect of it. We've had the #1 golf course in the state of Alabama for the last 12 years running. The product is very high level. Like even on TripAdvisor, what's crazy is like, we don't have like Ritz-Carlton people working for us. Like when you think of an experience that you have, people just want to be treated genuinely and like, hey, you see me, you hear me, and you can help me. And it doesn't, and what's cool is like the package that's delivered in is maybe a little rough on the edges, but it's super genuine, right? Like these people just care about those that come because they're proud. Like, they grew up in the sticks and they have this thing out there that they get to come alongside our vision and journey to help love on others. And so that was really my upbringing, was surrounded in those areas. When I left Auburn, back in 2013, I went and worked with Chick-fil-A for about 3 years. My goal was to go become an operator, and really I say 3 years. I really worked 6 years, because you're working 80-hour weeks for 3 years. You just double the amount of time, right?
Legit, right?
Yeah, but it was the best investment I could have made in myself and my professional career, because coming out of that, I saw things in a whole different light. And so I went back to help my father when we did that expansion in 2016, and I was there for about 4 years, serving in various roles. 2020 hits, and I kind of felt like I was at a ceiling. But also we had to make some cuts to the staff. And I said, I really felt like the Lord was calling me to step away And I knew that I would land on my feet probably better than a lot of other people in the area. So I said, look, let's just take a chance. I'm gonna go out and figure it out. I didn't have a job lined up, but and I was mowing the golf course at the time until those things happened. And so I step out, I go to do pressure washing for about 8 months with a buddy of mine, Tyler Peppers. I'm always going to say his name. On City Power Washing.
Yeah.
He honestly was an angel for me during that time. He kept my bills paid, and so I'm indebted to him forever. But during that time, I was pursuing what next. I had no idea, and I came across this company. So I've been in entrepreneurial environments, like even at Chick-fil-A, I walked into a new build, a brand new operation, grand opening. I got to help build things from the ground up, right? Same with the family business, same with most that I've done. I look at myself as a builder, not a founder. So I love coming alongside people with visions and helping them build the thing that they want. So when I came across this at the EQRP, I had no idea what it was. Like, I thought that, we were going to sit down, have coffee. He was going to put this tablet in front of me and say, hey, give me 99 of your friends' emails and phone numbers, and let's sell them insurance or something. I didn't know. But David Morris, I didn't even know Damien existed at the time. Like the guy that hired me, I was like, who's Damien? He's like, oh, he's the founder. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And so what he shared with me, though, was this vision of helping people break financial shackles. And then he started talking about how it was going to be done. This is what's currently going on. And I was like, there's something in my heart that said, take a chance, do it. And I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? Right? I'm unemployed again. Oh, well, I've been there already. And so, my first day was November 2nd, 2020. And really and we'll talk about this kind of later, kind of where that shift happened for me. But now, 2 years later, through helping the company in various ways, serving in different roles, capacities, was promoted to president back in December. And now I get to serve and help lead and run this organization that I'm very passionate about, because it's changed my life in so many ways. And I also get to see other people, their lives change through engaging this company, our community. And so I'm a very passionate individual. And what's funny, it's like we are a customer service business, like really hospitality focused. And, all of my I guess background comes from the hospitality side. So it's funny that now I'm here getting to do the same thing, just in a different way in finance. And I think it's much needed. There's not many places out there that has this disruptive focus like we do, in providing something that is truly an experience, and you walk away feeling the difference versus very transactional. So.
And Parker, I'm fascinated. You said something that really, really rich there too. Even though it was, an alternative to 401k solo, and which I can't wait to get into the mechanics of what that is and the opportunity there. But at the bottom line, it's still a service and hospitality background that serves you so well today. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I think how many times you come across banks that's like, oh, people first or service first, and you're like, wait, I don't feel that at all, right? So for us, we just see it as really, in a world that's becoming more automated, we want to remain human. So everything that we do is through a human element. Like, the automation helps us be more efficient, but we want the automation to help the human element more, not replace the human element.
That sure makes a lot of sense. And so when it comes to what the core principle of what EQRP, when you joined it, what were they really trying to do in terms of mission, and talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, every company starts somewhere and turns out into something else, right? I mean, there's plenty of companies out there that build on one thing and turn into another. So for us, with Damien, where he really set out on came from this time back in 2008 where the market crashed, he lost everything. And it was this feeling of being manipulated and being duped by a system that took all the control away from him. And he saw a lot of other people around him suffer as well. It's like the people that suffered most were the ones that trusted the system. The system walked away without a scratch because they came in and had people bail them out, right?
Yep.
And so for him, he said there's got to be a better way. So he dug into the tax code, created this product, which in and of itself is unique because it's essentially it's a solo 401k product with capabilities that gives business owners complete control too. So I don't like saying it's a self-directed 401k because it's not apples to apples. Like it's just, but it gives individuals and it gives business owners complete control over their retirement, more flexibility. We're not trying to say like vilify Wall Street. Like there's a lot of things about it, right, that are distasteful and I think hurt a lot of people. But at the same time, it's a part of people's portfolios. Like people still engage it. Like there's a lot out there. So, but it's this idea when you think of retirement, which was the thing that blew up most back then was people's retirement. Think Bernie Madoff, think all these things that happened. So it is this idea when people say retirement, their first words are IRA, 401k, but that's not really the thing they're looking for. What they're really asking is, am I going to have enough for when I want to be done? Right? So it's this idea of we can give them a tool that gives them total control, but also we can help them with that word and get to where they want to go. So most people that do something new, take control, do something themselves, it's new, it's uncomfortable, there's some tension there because what you wrestle with is I'm just used to other people doing it for me. But what we've seen, you and I have seen when we had that shift is like really all I need is more education, more support, and the right tools to get the job done. And that's what we're here to do. And those financial shackles that we talk about could be like myself, right? Like when I walked in this company, I had no idea what an IRA was or 401k. Like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, but and I wrestled with it. And as much as like the word retirement, it's like this is just a tool to get people where they want. It's not the retirement tool. It's a tool to help people have more control in a tax deferred system. And there's benefits to it, right? Like who doesn't want to make money completely tax free? Where else can you do that? They're like, well, I'm just going to do this. I'm like, okay, but like, why wouldn't you like start at zero and remain at zero for life? Like with your investments, it just makes sense, right? So
yeah, it really dawns on me. It's like, congratulations, you're a portfolio manager. And that for a lot of people might send a lot of fear down your spine. Like portfolio manager, what does that mean? And the reality is, and if you look at the financial like statistical data on this, a fair number and maybe a large majority of professional educated do not beat the market anyway. So what I respect them. I admire them in ways, and also though, don't think they're that great that you can't live without them also. So that's a part of my message too. And depending on what you're doing too. So you can choose strategies that are less complicated, especially real estate, for example. Real estate is really, in a lot of ways, if you do it right, close to set it and forget it. If you want to go a lower load in terms of management and intensity, but there are options. But what I really admire about what you're working on now, Parker, is the education piece to help them understand. Oh, I can do this. This isn't like a PhD in astrophysics that I'm working on here.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, people win in communities, right? Like I think of, for me, when I made that shift in my financial mindset, like who I had around me currently, what's crazy is, so like I grew up in a very successful environment, but I learned the value of hard work, right? So I saw all this around me. I respected it. I realized that, wow, like I'm grateful, right? I realized that we have a stewardship opportunity with this, but I don't know how to preserve it, nor do I know how to grow it or get it like for myself. So I never looked at what we had and said, oh, like I'm just going to get this one day.
Yeah.
No, there's a part of me that's like, I want to build myself. And then whenever things come in, I'm not scared of it or stressed by it, but I can manage it and understand it and help preserve it longer. Right. So, uh, for us, like that's what we're trying to do is help people shift this idea with you sometimes got to strip people out of your life that aren't serving you with where you need to go. So for me, I didn't have to strip anybody out. I just had to like replace time and energy spent in some places in other places. So, my dad never really taught me about money. Like I just saw it, but I didn't understand it. And the same thing with a tool, right? If I give you a shovel, here's a tool, and if I don't tell you how to use it, you could go hit someone in the head with it. You could go play hockey with it. Like you could do all these different things, but they aren't going to get the result you're looking for, right? So the same things with money. If I give you $1 or 100 or 1,000,000 and you don't know how to use it, you're just going to lose it, right? And so that's what we're really aiming to do is help shift and put people in an environment that's challenging their paradigms of how they think about things. And Damien challenges me all the time. Like I had a situation 2 days ago I was talking with him about, and it was a fear thing. So like here's my ceiling, and I'm sorry, I was blocking my face. I want something right here, but here's my ceiling, and I'm wrestling with the tension of letting go of this and going here. And he was like, why are you thinking that way? And I'm like, well, it's this number scares me. And he's like, why? And I'm like, well, I'm used to doing things like this. And he's like, okay, so what's going to happen if you do this? What's wrong with this? And I'm like, well, feel like it's a principle thing. He's like, yeah, but I mean, can you still do all these other things? I'm like, yeah. He's like, sometimes Parker, you say you just got to do it and learn. And what's funny is I've done things. Sorry if I'm rambling, but like I've done.
No. This mindset piece is so critical of everything, and it's definitely finance, but everything too, and success in life. I love the conversation.
But these are the conversations we're having with people every day. But like I remember my first investment that I made, it was a big deal. Like I took a cash out refi on my house and invested it in something, then I lost it. And I was like, oh my God. But this thing that I was talking with him about, we're talking with pennies. And it's just interesting, like, wow, like people are caught in this flywheel or this trap at times, and you have to break free through these things. And but if you don't challenge it and you don't have people like pushing back against you, I'm not saying you have to do it differently, but at least challenge the idea and do it so you know what it feels like. So next time something like that happens, you're not scared of it, but you know how to manage it better.
Completely agree. And again, I think it depends on who you're surrounded by too, that make you more comfortable, and maybe, stepping out of the comfort zone. And again, there's always are we trying to test the river depth with both feet? But as long as you're not, I'm going to take my entire retirement fund and put it on 22 Red at Las Vegas. It's usually not that, right? And it's usually just something that you're just a little outside your comfort zone, and you have to kind of give it a shot and take a reasonable bet on. But being surrounded by people that do that kind of decision all day long certainly helps too. And I found that too in the last 6 months. I've been surrounded by a completely amazing group of people, networking wise, that really in 7 months, a year. And again, that's how I met you, for example. It's a different conversation, a different group, and a different mindset. And if you listen to it and you're surrounded by it, eventually you start to replicate and start to think the same way. It's kind of a tribal nature thing at the bottom line. We're going to talk evolutionary biology while we're at it. But bottom line is, if you're surrounded by the right crowd, they'll make it easier for you to have a mindset shift like that, I think.
Yeah. And so, in that, kind of wrapping this full circle on your original question, like it started off as this retirement product that we added these little things to. And really it was like, what do people need help with? Okay. So we saw this next thing, like we're going to do this for them. Okay. Now we see this opportunity. We're going to do this for them. So what this thing is evolving into is an ecosystem to help set people up to answer their problems, no matter what it is. And so, what a lot of people in this space see us as is a retirement product, which that's one of the parts of our ecosystem, but there's other things in there too. And one of the things we're really most excited about is, in asking that question, What else can we do? What are we hearing? What are the problems that we're hearing people talk about on the phone? And where else can we serve? Is this idea of creating a financial map for people. We used to have so many people come in our system that are looking for a retirement product and they maybe aren't ready for it yet. And when we start asking more questions and listening to them, there's really this underlying problem down here. They're not ready for this yet, but they need help with just getting their feet moving. And so we have it's kicking off right now. So you'll see more about it in our content and kind of front of face stuff, but we are helping people create clarity around their reality, seeing where they want to go, and then saying, all right, let's create a plan for you to get there. And so for us, we get to take people on a journey of getting to where they want to go, this destination. And most people in life just don't have, they don't have the clarity of where they're at. They don't have a coach, someone who can help them get there, nor do they really understand what they're trying to get to. It may be very ambiguous and vague, but a lot of times it's just accountability, right? And so that's what we're stepping into now is coming alongside them, but it's self-serving, right? So now not only do we get to help them with their holistic financial things that they need, but this ecosystem of a retirement space now is just part of that conversation. Or they may need help with budgeting. Like we get to help them with that. Like I know it sounds very elementary, but you'd be surprised at how many people out there just don't know. There's people who live paycheck to paycheck making $1 million a year because
seriously, I've heard of doctors. It blew me away when I found this out, but they're literally doctors with literally, close to a 7-figure salary, but that live paycheck to paycheck. And I was slayed by that.
Well, yeah, but when you look at the statistics and how our education system's set up, like finance isn't taught.
Nope.
It's what and this isn't trying to like jump on like super right wing stuff, but
no, it's reality.
Yeah, when you look in our school system, like why is personal finance not taught? Like, why do we not teach people about investing? Like, what we're creating is this flywheel of 9-to-5 people who are looking at the contrarian people that are doing it differently, wondering, man, I wish I could do that. But then they're like, well, this system's made me really comfortable and they've given me all these things. So, I'll just worry about it another time. Right. And so it's a disservice because you and I are getting to live our best lives right now. Like, yes, am I working here with this company in a salaried 9-to-5 concept? Yes, but it's different. Like, I am living my life how I want to live it. I choose to show up here and help. And I am building, because of this ecosystem, a life for me and my family that otherwise would not have existed had I not come into this company. And so it's your job and my job to help educate people on that and push back against it. And most people, when they hear it for the first time, it's uncomfortable because they're like, wait, that goes against everything I've ever heard or been taught or known. Put your money in a bank account, save it. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay, you want to put your money into a loss leader fund at 14% a year, because that's kind of where it's headed. And that's probably being conservative considering where inflation's headed, right? So, and we aren't even talking about all that stuff, but so that's what we're trying to do, and always asking, how can we serve? How can we help? What's the next thing we can help with? So where we are today is much different than where we were 2 years ago, and where we'll be 2 years from now is going to be so different than probably we even think it's going to be. But it's going to be serving people. It's going to be helping them break financial shackles. And the transformation journey is the thing that's going to be highlighted with people engaging our company.
I am so excited to hear how this unfolds and how it will transpire. And it just really dawns on me how amazing the values are like the direction, and then and you're just kind of evolving around the axis in a different way, in a different angle, but it really is still along those same lines that really have served you so far. And I think that's really exciting, and why I'm excited to have you on. And again, we will definitely be educating folks on different things they can do with their money in terms of real estate and debt and investment, but ultimately financial freedom and taking control is what we're here to educate on too. And so I'm excited to join you in that. in that battle. And I'm just like, again, it's just incredible to see what's about to transpire.
Yeah.
And Parker, I guess ultimately, what is the number one thing? I guess we should get into the weeds a little bit about, okay, I have a 401k already. I can't have an EQRP.
So, false statement. You can have multiple 401ks, right? But the way they're set up, most people get it confused. A lot of CPAs aren't really educated in the retirement space other than what they're just told at a very top level. But CPAs are inundated with their clients, what they do specifically. When something else contrarian hops in, they're like, whoa.
No.
Yeah, this doesn't work. It's like, well, you haven't done the research you need to do. But you could have 100 401ks if you wanted. If you had 100 separate different little businesses that you were conducting, but you can only max out at a certain level, right? So those were really designed to help business owners, right? The 401ks, the way they're structured is real simple. You've got the trust, retirement savings trust, and then the trustee to it. So as an entrepreneur, what's great about that is your contribution limits are much higher. There's a lot less friction in just the structure of itself. So when we say completely self-directed, since you are the trustee of the trust, you can act on behalf of the trust. Mm-hmm. But in the IRAs, they're more complex in the way they're built. You have a custodian, you've got all these different steps to execute things. There's also to have control, you have to give managerial control to someone else. There's different rules when it comes to investing. And then when you start getting to the alternative space, you start using debt, there's different ramifications that come with using debt too. And your contribution limits are much lower. So most people push back because they want it to be apples to apples, but there's a lot of people that just don't even want to think, oh, this could be done differently. The EQRP and what we create, it's a Leatherman tool. And most people just pull one of the things out and they're like, this is all I can use it for. And I'm like, I see like 80 other things in there. You just don't know what they are used for. And that's what we help people do.
Yeah. And so in terms of, so let's do a hypothetical. Let's say commercial airline pilot makes a really good salary. Probably, and again, I don't know if they're mostly all in 401ks now. I think most of them are. But at a certain income level, they max out at their 401k contribution level. So at that level, they may not be a good fit for an EQRP.
So it just depends, right? I say that meaning you could have a W-2 and be crushing a 1099 or side hustle on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just take the free money at your salaried place, right? If they're matching, you might as well just match whatever they're giving you,
right? Get
the free money, and then contribute the difference from your 1099 in there as well, all the way up to, I think the new limits now are like 63,000, I think, 70 with the catch up. And so, you have your contribution limits are much higher, but you can't contribute, like if you're just a W-2 at a company. So for me, like I can contribute to our EQRP plan because everything that I earn from the company is because of the work I'm doing. Therefore, I can put it in. I could just put it in another plan because monies would have to be earned from that business activity, AKA if I had a consulting business on the side, then I could put money in that with that money. So you just can't cross it over with 401ks. It's very vertical with how it works.
Okay, and I guess that's great. So let's go back to the same airline pilot. He's making really good salary, doing well with his work 401k.
Yep.
But hey, you know what? I really like flipping houses, for example. Seems like that's a perfect example where he literally could be like ridiculously aggressive about most of the funds. And again, I think you have to be careful. There's a way to do it and a way not to do it. I feel like EQRP is the ultimate solution because a self-directed IRA doing flips, I don't think it works really remotely as well. And again, folks playing along at home, please do not do anything without consulting somebody who's qualified to do it. I do have a law degree. I do have some tax background, but please, I've seen some horror stories. Don't do anything. Just generally give you an idea of what could be done. So having said the disclaimer, you could be flipping inside an EQRP as a business. and being ridiculously aggressive about tax deferred growth inside there.
Yeah, and because it is a retirement plan, right? So there's rules with how it works. And typically some people will take a tool like this and want to go rogue with it, right? Like there are rules to how it works. So
Yeah.
my philosophy is if it's gray, stay away.
Right.
Only because the person that's hunting you down is the IRS and you are guilty until proven innocent. Like that's just point blank. There's so many different ways you can make money. And the way it's designed is really for you to create something for a later date.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are there ways that you can get access to it now? Absolutely. Are there creative strategies that you can use? Absolutely. But you don't want to go into it with the idea of running a business, quote unquote, because that's not the intent. The intent for you is to take your retirement, your money for a later date, right? And compound that much quicker than your traditional investments that you could do. There's people that get into the house flipping.
Mm-hmm.
If they have a good system and process down to where they can stay arm's length away, it'll work. But typically I'm like, and this is just my personality, I'd be like, Doug, look, I got $100,000. I just want to throw it. And I just want to get your emails and reports every, quarter and just tell me how it's doing. Like not think about it. And that's probably the best way to use it. But you can do private money lending. You can invest in crypto if you wanted to. You can do the single family homes if you want to. But it gets real clunky when you get into these assets that already require a lot of hands-on work. Retirement systems aren't built for you to be hands-on. They're built to be hands-off.
That's a great point. And again, maybe that's my mistake in terms of what really is an ultimate fit. And I really appreciate that too, because again, if you have a ton of passive investment income that you want to do a lot of deployment in terms of limited partnerships, for example, is a fantastic, easier, peasier way, if we will.
Yep. No, absolutely. And so, like I said, there's when you get entrepreneurs in this space, they look at this and try to take as much control, which you have ultimate control. Like, but it's trying to be as clean as you can too. So, like I said, can you do it? Yes. Should you do it? That's up to you. Right. So, but what we do, I will say this, like people out there that are leaving jobs or the displaced, or let's say your airline pilot has, amassed, $500,000 from his time flying with FedEx or whatever. You can roll money over from other plans into this. So that's an easy way for you to get access, because a lot of commercial pilots will then just say, look, I'm just going to contract out on these little jets and, have fun. So you've got the business activity. You can move something over and use it, but it doesn't even have to be that complex with the business. Like you could have a lemonade stand out in front of your house and just put flyers around your neighborhood. And that is intent. That's all you have to have is intent.
Intent.
The IRS does not say specifically that you have to generate income to have a 401k. You have to show intent to generate income. So lots of businesses show intent in building a business and they have no money to show for it because they're at a loss, right? So doesn't mean you can't have one.
That's incredible too. It's like when you think about what any kind of way you can monetize a side hustle, it opens the door. And I think that's the number one education piece is maybe folks first a priori question is what side hustle would you like to have?
Yeah. I mean, go on TikTok and dance and try to monetize it. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want.
Absolutely.
Great content on YouTube. And, I mean, it's like if you were doing this and posting it and saying like my intent is to generate X amount of views, like that's intent. That's it. But, as long as it can be justifiable, right, to show intent to do X, and they're like, okay, well, yeah, it's a business. Like
it's a business.
Any money, but it's a business.
Absolutely. And that's incredible too. I'm really fascinated, Parker, in terms of what are some of the things that I recall the no bueno, like the Ixnay rules. I do remember hearing like if it's benefiting a family member, like there's a certain no. You got to be real careful about that as well.
Yeah, typically if it's vertical with the lineage, you stay away from the investment. Now it depends because there are some rules which I always say depends, disclaimer, right? I'm not
Yeah.
a financial advisor, but
Hmm.
um, there's different situations that, for instance, if to our understanding is if a deal would be like subject to closing based on your, if let's just say you were my dad and you said, hey Parker, like I got this single family I want to go in with you on and I need $50,000, you're putting 50 in, so that'd be disqualified because it'd be considered self-dealing and fall within that vertical line. But if you said, hey Parker, I'm doing a $50 million raise and you're a GP in the deal and I'd use my retirement to invest 50 grand, the deal's not going to fall through with or without my 50 grand, right? It's like it doesn't matter. So um to our understanding with our research and what we've done, that's what we've come to with our solution. But I would always say consult before you do anything like that. Get clarity. There's a lot of people out there that can provide clarity.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't invest in collectibles. You can't invest in art, wine, those type things. But it's pretty, and that goes across all retirement plans.
Right.
But the reality is you can do a lot. But if it's gray, stay away. Like, well, what if I do? I'm like, if you're asking those questions, like, just find something else. Like,
Yeah.
what's the difference between you like chasing this thing with, let's say, an 18% return versus
Yeah.
giving it to somebody for 15% and it's clean? Like,
Right. Is the marginal worth the additional risk of this falling through? Probably
exactly.
not.
Yeah, that 3% could cost you, a couple $100,000 in taxes and penalties if you do something wrong versus like, okay, I know I'm clean on this deal.
Parker, I think it's appropriate now to talk about the eighth wonder of the world, as Einstein said, compounding.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a ninth wonder of the world I don't think most people are thinking of, and tax deferred compounding. Can you talk about a little bit of the impact of what those look like side by side? Because I don't know. Sometimes I look at it and I still can't even grasp or fathom the difference in what it makes over a 20 or 30-year period.
Yeah, so I would say that with people that are looking into retirement accounts and people in the real estate world, right? You got people, there's people online that are like, retirement accounts are stupid. Like, real estate's the way. And I'm like, I hear you. You don't get all the tax deferred, you don't get all the depreciation and stuff. I'm like, well, you do. It's just different. Like, so think about it like this. If retirement accounts were set up to screw you over, they wouldn't exist and people wouldn't use them, right? There's a reason why they exist. And there's a reason lobbyists exist. And there's a reason why you can have as much control. Like there's a reason the tax code exists. Right? So think of it this way. Peter Thiel has made over $5 billion in his Roth IRA.
Man.
That's $5 billion that the government can't touch. Whenever he wants to pull it out, it's completely tax-free.
That's right.
So when you think of a vehicle that could get you to zero, which is really what all these alternative investors, that's the argument that you're saying is like, I'm trying to get to zero. And I'm like, well, you can get to zero. And everybody has a tax problem. This is just a tool to help alleviate your tax problems. But also, you can use this tool to be at zero and grow it at zero for life, right? So we're big Roth fans. Like they're like, well, how should I contribute? I'm like, if you can do Roth and pay taxes now, then go ahead and pay it now. Keep it Roth.
Good.
Yeah, and earn it. And there's no capital gains. So if you get a 15% return in your Roth, what is that return really with not having to pay your income tax bracket on that? It's really much higher. So that's where I'm like, but people don't test that. Like they don't think about that because they're so like stuck in their corner on their asset class, which look, I'm cool. You've done a lot of work in it. I get it. But don't throw your don't speak in absolutes when there's a lot of different ways to do it. And it's easy when you're passionate about your thing. It helps. I invest in all these things that people do, but I also realize that there are tools like this that your asset class can't provide, which is complete tax-free growth for life. So say it how you want.
That feels like a mic drop moment for me right there. It's hard to beat that one. I think we got there. I will ask you this one final parting question. Actually, two. Before we go, what is your favorite mindset quote? Do you have any mindset quotes that are in mind right now that are really affecting you or really sticking out?
Oh man, put me on the spot. I don't know. Like, I think what I'll just kind of talk about what I'm working on right now is just focus.
Mm.
It's really this whole X to Y by when. You've seen me talk about this 40X model.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really transforming myself in my business and how we operate. And so I think there's no quote on mindset that comes to mind, but I could just say, be very clear on what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Have a 1 to 2 things outside of what you do on your daily basis that you need to focus on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Create some type of tracking scoreboard, right? Whatever that looks like to you, and then the accountability piece.
Yep.
So for me, like, that mindset is really helped honing me in to execute. Like, that is really what I'm doing, is execute. So when you have a Navy SEAL guy that's a door breacher, he said there's 3 words I'm looking for when I lay that bomb on the door. I got the sticky stuff. I pull it up. He said, the second I lay it on there, the 3 words I'm looking to hear is execute.
That's right.
That's where most people fail. And so
I agree.
take that for what it's worth.
And again, for clarity sake, folks, that's The 4 Disciplines of Execution, a fantastic read. I didn't execute it, but I think Parker just forced me to look at it again. And again, that's an appropriate thing for me to be picking up right now also. So thank you again so much for the added value there. And finally, Parker, if people want to reach out to EQRP and want to work with EQRP, how's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, you can find us all on LinkedIn, reach out to us on there. You can go to our website, eqrp.com, which our new website will be launching like in the next few days.
Sweet.
So if there's some transition and it kind of looks wonky, that's why. But reach out to me on LinkedIn, Parker at EQRP.com. Really easy to get in touch with me. And really, we just would love to help engage any of you out there that are serving people. Right, you've got this asset class, like Don. You've got a lot, Douglas. You got a lot of things you're working on that are helping people find financial freedom. We just want to partner alongside people and help support you and them in their journey, because they do have questions in areas that may not be in your line of expertise, but we can also support them in getting there and using your asset class to help achieve that. So
that's wonderful, and thank you so much for that. And I think, Parker, that's part of why we're excited of working with you alongside that. I really appreciate your time today, and thank you so much for the education along the way here. Parker, it's been a thrill to talk to you today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure and joy, and just look forward to seeing your growth as well.
Thank you so much, and same here. Excited about the next year. Is going to be incredible.
Absolutely.